ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकीनन्दनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं सागरजातं सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेशा गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी शुभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये पंचकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण प्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते राधानाथ स्वामी इति नामिने। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण प्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी इति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य तम करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्येश्वरं। हरि ओम तत्सत्। हरे कृष्ण। Welcome again. We are entering the 14th chapter of the third canto of the Srimad Bhagavat. Today's chapter is entitled Pregnancy of Diti in the Evening. Now, this is actually a continuation of the narration in relation to Lord Varaha's appearance that we discussed in the previous classes. This chapter begins with Shukdev Goswami narrating. So Shukdev Goswami is narrating to Parikshit Maharaj about the conversation between Maitreya and Vidura. And as you remember, Maitreya Muni was narrating about Lord Varaha. There were two appearances of Lord Varaha. Shvet Varaha in the Swayambhuva Manvantar and the Neela Varaha, the Chakshusha Manvantara. And if you recollect, in the previous chapter it was hinted that the Neela Varaha appeared to kill Hiranyaksha. So when he heard this, Viduraji became very excited with the reference of Hiranyaksha. And he immediately took that opportunity and he requested Maitreya Muni with folded hands, please narrate more and more these beautiful spiritual pastimes. My heart is not getting satisfied. Please narrate more. You will see this theme across the Srimad Bhagavat. Great souls, when they are hearing Harikatha, hearing the glories of the Lord, they will repeatedly say, tell me more, I am not satisfied. Go on, go on, go on. So this is a very sweet spiritual nature of the experience that a devotee has in connection with Krishna. Of course, when we are in this world, Our main connection with Krishna is through hearing, chanting, service. Because obviously, we are not able to interact with the Lord in terms of his direct manifest form. But we are able to interact with the Lord either through the Bhagavad Dharma of hearing and chanting and remembering, or through the Pancharatra Vidhi of worshipping the deity and doing other forms of services. But the beauty of the spiritual interaction is not only is the spiritual connection with the Lord deeply satisfying, and ecstatically blissful to the heart, but no matter how much the soul experiences it and enjoys it, the spiritual relish, the soul is still hankering for more. Is still hankering for more. This is a very beautiful feeling. Now, sometimes from a material calculation, one may feel, oh, what is this? He's not still feeling fully satisfied. But this feeling of not feeling fully satisfied is not like a frustrated feeling of lack of satisfaction that a person in the material sphere has. The beauty of this is because Krishna consciousness is timeless, transcendental, even though one is deeply and fully satisfied, one never feels spiritually, one never feels, oh, I'm done, I had enough. One can go on and on and on. Yeah. Just like when we are hungry in the material world, what happens when we are hungry? We eat something. The first morsel, when we eat something tasty, when we are hungry, tastes so nice, tastes so wonderful. And it's so pleasing. So nice. I'm so hungry and it's so tasty. But then when we take the second morsel, the pleasure as well as the satisfaction is slightly reduced. And third morsel, even slightly reduced. Fourth, even reduced. And eventually the hunger becomes satisfied, the taste becomes saturated, and after that, eating more only brings pain. In economics, this is known as the law of diminishing marginal utility. Diminishing utility. And this is true for any material experience. You cannot go on unendingly enjoying something material. In fact, after some time, rather than being a source of pleasure, it becomes a source of pain. You can take any sense object. The material senses soon get saturated and start experiencing misery rather than pleasure. But the beauty about the spiritual experience is, spiritual experience, because it is timeless, it is transcendental, the spiritual experience is ever fresh. It never becomes stale. The law of diminishing marginal utility does not apply. In fact, with every morsel of spiritual experience, one not only experiences full satisfaction, but one also feels an appetite to have more. Then one has another one still feels more appetite to have more. And timelessly, endlessly, for all eternity, the devotee can continue this. And this is proven by the Srimad Bhagavad through the statements of the great souls. So if any of you are going to feel worried, sometimes some people feel worried, eternally to be in the spiritual world, will it not be so boring? How much can I hear about the Lord? How much can I serve the Lord? After some time, I'll feel bored. So that is a material argument. That kind of thinking applies to the material realm. It doesn't apply to the spiritual realm because Krishna is ever fresh. Everything connected to Krishna is ever fresh. Nava Yauvanam cha. Krishna is Nava Yauvana. Krishna is ever fresh and everything connected to him is ever fresh, never becomes stale. A devotee can go on seeing Krishna's spiritual beauty without feeling bored or feeling enough for all eternity to come and continue to experience an ever increasing pleasure rather than decreasing. That is the beauty of spiritual life. So this is a very important point to understand. So Vidura is getting more excited. He's not feeling that I've had enough. Okay, now let us take a lunch break. I've heard a lot. Can we have some makan? Some breakfast, some lunch. After that, we will hear again. Yes. Those are not very developed in their spiritual taste. After hearing for some time, they become bored. They want to distract their mind for some time. But you can see Shukdev Goswami, Parikshit Maharaj, their conversation is uninterrupted 7 days, 7 nights. No lunch break, no coffee break, no even break to sleep at night. Continuous. Maybe the other audience were taking time off and going off for lunch and coming back. But Parikshit Maharaj and Shukdev Goswami were fixed. The speaker and the listener. They never deviated from their continuous hearing and chanting. And they never felt tired. In fact, the sages also say, Vayam tu na vitrupyama uttama shloka vikrame yat shrunavatam rasadnyanam swadu swadu padevade. Every step is increasingly pleasurable. Please don't stop. Go on more and more. Swadu swadu. Swadu means very tasty. So that is the experience. So this is when we understand that we are developing some spiritual advancement. When in Harikatha we are, our interest to go on hearing the glories of the Lord increases. That is a positive symptom of some spiritual awakening. So Vidura says, please go on. Maitreya Muni, you referred to this Hiranyaksha being killed. This original demon Hiranyaksha, he was slain by Lord Varaha, who's the very personification of sacrifices. Please tell me, oh Maitreya ji, what was the reason? Why did this fight happen? Varaha was lifting the earth. What happened? Who is this demon? Please explain to me. I have become very curious. So I'm not satisfied simply by hearing about the lifting of the earth. I also want to know the connected stories. Because everything in connection with the Lord is spiritual. And everything that the Lord does is auspicious. The Lord's blessing of the devotees is auspicious. And the Lord's punishing of the envious is also auspicious. All pastimes related to the Lord are auspicious and I want to hear more and more and more. So please describe to me all these things in detail. And Maitreya Muni was very happy. He was very excited. Vidura was showing these kind of characteristics of intense eagerness to hear about the Lord. And he said, yes, this is the perfect. Viduraji, you are showing the perfect symptoms of a devotee by your eagerness. And actually, it is the right thing to do because this itself is the medicine. Hearing with faith is the medicine which cures the samsara cycle. It liberates one from the cycle of birth and death. In fact, these are the topics which are worth hearing. And even that great soul, Dhruva, who heard from Narad Muni the glories of the Lord, simply by hearing the glories and being absorbed in those glories, he transcended. He stepped on the head of death and went back home to the spiritual world. Dhruva, at the age of 5, he achieved the darshan of Narayan. Later on, he got married, he was ruling a kingdom, he had subjects and so many things, but he was so attached to the Lord. Being blessed by Narad Muni, the son of Uttanapad, Dhruva, he was so enlightened that he remained absorbed, and at the end of his life, in fact, it is said in his very self-same body, he went to the spiritual world. So it is said, he stepped onto the chariot to go back to the spiritual world, and the step that he used was the head of death. So he stepped on death and sat in the chariot and went. So he was not even affected by material death. That is the power of Harikatha. So it is proven in the past. Definitely, it is true always. So Maitreya Muni starts describing and he says, that I actually learned about this pastime when this pastime was originally narrated by Lord Brahma himself to the Devatas long, long back. And I had heard it at that time. So let me narrate to you the background. But before going directly into the story of Hiranyaksha, I have to tell you the background of the birth of Hiranyaksha. Let me start from there. So the mother of Hiranyaksha is Diti. This Diti, and I had mentioned about her earlier, this Diti is the daughter of Daksha Prajapati. And Daksha Prajapati had married off 13 of his daughters to Kashyapa Muni. Now one may be wondering, why would somebody marry 13 of his daughters to the same man? And this is mentioned in the subsequent verses, but since I'm talking about this, I would mention, it is said that these 13 daughters, all of them wanted Kashyap Muni as their husband. So in those times, the ladies were not interested in the most, in the guy with the most long and beautiful hair, the macho six-pack look, the biggest billionaire. They wanted Kashyap Muni, who was such an elevated soul. Of course, Kashyap Muni was also very effulgent and in general good looking as well. But that was not the reason for their attraction. They wanted a great soul as their husband. Because they also knew the value of life. They also knew that if they get connected to a great soul, they will also be elevated. It will be good for them materially as well as spiritually. So 13 daughters of Daksha were married to Kashyap Muni. This Kashyap Muni is the son of Marichi. So it is said one day in the ashram of Kashyap Muni was doing his evening duties. It was dusk time, the sun was setting. And Kashyap Muni was doing his evening prayers and he was almost in meditation in a trance. At that time, Diti was very anxious to have children. So it is said at that point in time, out of the 13 wives of Kashyap Muni, who were all sisters, all daughters of Daksha, 12 already had children. It was only Diti who did not have children. And Diti was feeling very insecure and unhappy because she did not have children. And somehow, at that day, at that time, she had such a strong urge to actually unite with her husband. She was afflicted by lust. And of course, with the end desire of having children. That she practically, the Bhagavad says, practically shamelessly approached Kashyap Muni, who was busy with his spiritual performances, and proposed to him that they should unite for the sake of having children. And in fact, she started arguing, or rather presenting her case to Kashyapa Muni. She says to Kashyapa Muni that, "Oh great sage, you must be kind to me. I have a desire to have sons. All my co-wives have sons. They are opulent, they are happy. So you must satisfy me. You are my husband, you must satisfy me. And this is good for you also, because in the end of the day, when we have great children, then your fame will also spread in this world. And you are also meant, because it is your duty as a part of increasing the population of the whole world. You are supposed to have children. So this is very wonderful. It is my desire also, and it is your duty also. Your duty not just to your wife, but your duty to the universe. Your duty to Brahmaji, who's your grandfather, to populate the universe." So she was pestering him, even though he was not interested. He was actually still trying to focus on his spiritual life and his spiritual activities. And actually, Kashyapa Muni tried to pacify her and tried to make her understand that it is not the right time now. You are becoming agitated by material lust and a material desire, while it is generally not a problem. In fact, the scriptures say that lust, dharma aviruddho kamosmi. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that union between a male and female, which is not against religious principle. When a wedded husband and wife come together with the desire of having children, whom they desire to train in spiritual life, that kind of union is considered spiritual. It is not considered material. Because the focus of that kind of a union is not simply enjoyment of the senses. So he said, yes, generally it is okay, but right now, you're so disturbed in your mind because of your lust, you're not even conscious of the actual circumstances and situation that we are in. First of all, I'm doing my prayers, the Sandhya. Yeah. And you're disturbing my spiritual activity. And evening time is not auspicious. So wait, definitely I will fulfill your desire because you are my wife, you are my Ardhangini, you are my Sahadharmacharini. And he glorifies his wife. He tries to pacify her with words of encouragement and glorification. So he says some very interesting verses to glorify his wife by saying that wife is actually such a great support. A chaste wife is a great support for the husband, even for his spiritual advancement, both materially and spiritually. A good companion in the form of a good chaste wife is in fact supportive even of liberation. Of course, it is supportive of the material desirable objectives of dharma, artha, kama. Because dharma or religious performances are observed together with the wife, Sahadharmacharini. The wife is also known as Sahadharmacharini, one who performs spiritual duties together. Correct? Yeah? In fact, for those who are married, it is said in the pujas and the yajna, the wife should sit with the husband. They do sacrifices together. If you remember, even in Ramayana, when Lord Ramchandra wanted to perform the yajna, Sita Devi was in the forest. The sages said, no, how can you do alone? You have to do the yajna with your wife. So finally, they had to settle with a Suvarna Sita, a golden form of Sita. So that's why the wife is known as Sahadharmacharini. So dharma, the husband and wife are supposed to do together. And when they perform dharma, then artha comes, which means those good, desirable things come by the performance of dharma. And with that artha, which is, the gain that they get, through that, all material desires can be satisfied. Kama can be satisfied in a religious way. The scriptures, for those who are conditioned souls, they do not forbid sense enjoyment altogether, but they emphasize that enjoyment of the senses should not be dharma viruddha, which means it should not be against the principles of religion. If kama is preceded or kama is sourced by artha, which is produced by dharma, and one has proper considerations of dharmic principles, then that kama doesn't become an obstacle in the spiritual progress of the living entity. Rather, it keeps the living entity peaceful in this world as he's practicing his spiritual life. In fact, Kashyapa Muni says, Diti, that a wife like you allows the husband to remain peaceful. Because in this world, for those who are not thoroughly detached and thoroughly renounced, there are so many distractions and allurements in this world. And the good thing for those who are married is because they have a spouse, the husband has the wife has the husband, huh, within the principles of dharma, they can still come together and enjoy in a dharmic way without violating religious principles so that they do not go away into sinful life. In that way, they remain protected. And he gives a very beautiful example. Just like when one wants to cross the ocean, one takes a sea vessel, a sea ship, on which he sits and goes across. Similarly, to cross over this material ocean, one can be supported by living with a wife. And that is why the wife is known as the better half of the man, because she shares in all the dharmic activities. In fact, a man can peacefully go about doing his duties by entrusting his home to his wife and not be in any anxiety. So, in that way, Kashyap Muni glorifies the positive aspects of Grihastha Ashram. He glorifies the positive aspects of the support and help that a good spouse brings to one's spiritual life. Of course, there are many negative aspects also, but in this conversation, he doesn't go into that. In this conversation, he focuses on the positive aspects because he wants to express his appreciation for his wife. He wants to make her feel, yes, you are indeed my support, you are indeed my help, and yes, I am obliged to you. Yes, I want to help you. I want to satisfy your desire because your desire is legitimate. Your desire for children is legitimate. I will. But time, place, circumstances we need to consider. We cannot be dharma viruddha. It must be dharma aviruddha without going against religious principles. I'm so obliged to you, he says, I cannot repay your debt because you're serving me. I'm doing so many yajnas and this thing, and you are making sure that all the facilities and all the arrangements are made. You're supporting me, you're cooking for me, you're taking care of my house, so many things. How can I repay you? But just one request. Just one request. Please wait for one muhurta. Now is the sunset time. Sunset time is not right for union because at the time of the sunset, it is very inauspicious because at this time, all kinds of ghosts, goblins, and others, they become active. And accompanied by Lord Shiva, who's the Bhutanath, the Lord of the ghosts, who sits on the back of bull Nandi, he travels around accompanied by all these ghosts throughout the world. Lord Shiva, he's so great, he's so powerful, his body is reddish in color. It's covered with ashes of the crematorium. His hair is dusty with the dust which is emanating from the bodies cremated in the crematorium. He is going around and he is actually the younger brother of your husband. Yes, he's the younger brother because he's also born from Brahma. So he's like a younger brother. He was born later. So he's the younger. Kashyapa is born first, and then Lord Shiva came later from the Shankar came from the forehead of Brahma, like what we discussed earlier. He's like my younger brother. And he sees with three eyes. Don't think that he'll be somewhere else, he'll be roaming, he will not know what is going on in our ashram. He has third eye, he can see everything. Don't mess with him. And even though he's related to us, he's related to us in both ways. He's my younger brother, also he's your brother-in-law. Your sister Sati is also the daughter of Daksha. He is her husband. But don't think that just because he's related to us, he will overlook your mistake. No, 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 no. He's equal to all because he's Ishvara. He's an incarnation of the Lord. He's Mahesha. He has an equal vision. So don't think he will excuse you just because of that. So even though he's related to us, he has no relative. He doesn't favor anybody. He's neutral. And he's so great. He's so detached. Whatever remnants of food he leaves, we all take. Nobody in this material world is as good or equal to him. He's more powerful than all the devatas, and that is why he's known as Maheshwara. No devatas can equal him. And he has such an impeccable character. He's so great, but still he's so kind that because he desires the welfare of the ghosts and other fallen creatures, he takes up this kind of a devilish look, covered by crematorium ashes, staying there, sometimes wearing skulls. He does this not because he is in any way fond of these kind of devilish things, but he wants to help those living entities who are trapped in the bodies of ghosts and other lower species. He wants to give them a chance to elevate themselves and become free from these lower yonis. So that is his great compassion. That is his great seva. That is the great help. So he just pretends as if he's interested in all these things, but he's never. So Kashyap Muni actually explained the whole situation to Diti. But as destiny would have it, Diti was so overwhelmed with a sense of urgency, both because of her strong desire for children and also being impelled by lust, that she was not willing to reason. And she went to the extent of approaching Kashyap Muni and pulling at his cloth. Bhagavad says. Kashyap Muni, after some time he gave up. Said, this is getting too much. This is going beyond control. So he also resigned fate. And it is said they went to a secluded place and had union. At the inauspicious time. Now, one more thing for you to, it's important to note that when a person has union at an inappropriate time, especially when there is influence of ghosts and other demoniac species, it is said that these demoniac species take the opportunity at that inauspicious time to take shelter in the womb of such living entities. Which means that the children that are born are actually ghosts who immediately come and take those bodies. So that's why it is very dangerous. And Kashyap Muni told her, don't do this, but she didn't listen. So after the act, Kashyap Muni goes and takes bath. Again, he purifies his mind, which was influenced by lust. He does his meditations, he chants his Gayatri and various prayers to purify himself. And Diti, after the whole episode, slowly, she comes to her senses and she realizes, oh, what did I do? She starts realizing her mistake. She starts realizing that she is actually at fault. She has forced her husband into an offense to Lord Shiva, and she becomes very worried. And she becomes very afraid. She comes to her husband in a very apologetic way and she prays to him. She says, oh, my great husband, we have made a mistake. Actually, I have made a mistake. But now it has happened. Whatever has to happen has happened. I request you, please. I'm very worried that Lord Shiva may be offended and he may destroy my embryo because of the offense that I have committed to him. He is all auspicious and he is easily pleased. But at the same time, Lord Shiva is also known to have a character of being equally easily displeased. Lord Shiva can be easily pleased, at the same time be easily angered as well. So I'm worried. In this case, it may be the latter. And he may immediately come to chastise me and destroy my womb. I want children. So please protect my womb. He's my brother-in-law. He's the husband of my sister Sati. And that is why he's worshipable by all women. So I'm offering my obeisances to him. May Lord Shiva not punish me. May he excuse me. So she starts praying to Lord Shiva. Kashyap Muni, seeing the whole situation, and by his yogic power, understanding what is happening, he becomes upset, and in a very serious tone, he actually tells his wife, "Oh stubborn lady, oh haughty lady, because of this mistake of yours, the consequence that is going to happen, let me tell you, it is not that the womb is going to be killed by Lord Shiva, but actually something even worse is going to happen. You are going to have children, but you're going to have the most terrible children because of having conceived them at such an inauspicious time." He says, "Oh unlucky woman, the children that you are going to bear out of this union will create trouble and lamentation for the whole world. There will be such demoniac living entities who are going to be born that they will kill and trouble faultless living entities. They will torture women. They will enrage great souls. They will create chaos all across the universe." And as it is listening to this, she becomes overwhelmed with worry, overwhelmed with frustration. And then he says, and eventually these children will be killed directly by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He will descend, just like Indra with his Vajra smashes the mountains, whom nobody else can smash. Similarly, Krishna, the Supreme Lord, will come, will take a special form, kill these children of yours. So even though initially Diti becomes a bit scared when she hears that her children will be killed by the Lord himself, it becomes like a consolation for her. So she says, "Oh, my dear husband, it is good. If my sons are becoming demons, it is good that they get killed by the Lord personally. But I don't want that they become killed by the wrath of the saintly devotees and the Brahmins, because that will lead to their ruination. If they receive the curses of the devotees and the Brahmins, they will be ruined materially and spiritually. But being killed by the Lord is actually a blessing. If my children are going to achieve death at the hands of the Lord, I have learned from scripture that whoever is killed by the Lord himself personally becomes free from all their sins and they achieve liberation. So this is wonderful. The Lord is so auspicious, the Lord is so great, that is blessing as well as killing. Both ways is a blessing. So that is a good news. It is a silver lining on the cloud. Yes, they'll become demons, so that is very sad. They will cause so much suffering, that is very sad. But the fact that they'll be killed by the Supreme Lord, I'm happy. At least they will not eventually get degraded into lower species, that they will be delivered. Because being the object of the curses and the wrath of devotees of the Lord is the worst position to be in. So it's also a very beautiful lesson. She says, one should never be the object of being disliked and unfavored by the Lord's devotees and the spiritually elevated people. And there is no greater blessing than being favored by the devotees of the Lord. So this is a very interesting spiritual truth which we should all take note of. And Diti knew this. The amazing thing is, and why this is very important, why the favor of the devotees of the Lord is even more important than the favor of the Lord in one sense, is that even if the Lord is favorable, as soon as the devotees become unfavorable, the Lord will also become unfavorable. And if the Lord is unfavorable, but the devotees become favorable to someone, then the Lord is forced to change his unfavorable attitude to a favorable attitude. You understand? So essentially, the attitude of the devotee towards others is an overriding factor even above what the Lord thinks. And if you see scripture, if you see pastimes of the Lord, this is one thing that we will see repeatedly true. Repeatedly true. That sometimes the Lord wants to punish somebody, but the devotee tells the Lord, no, 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 please just excuse him, it's okay. And even though the Lord wants to punish, the Lord is obliged because of the devotee's favorable disposition towards that person, that the Lord forgives. That is why in spiritual life it is so important to receive the favor, blessings of the great souls. When we say great soul, we are not simply referring to the Guru, but all the devotees of the Lord. When we receive their favor, when we receive their blessings, it becomes a very, very strong, such a strong protective cover that it can not only protect us from all other material disasters and spiritual disasters, but it can even protect us from the wrath of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, if at all that were to happen. That is the amazing power of the blessings of the devotees. Anyway, we don't have time to discuss many pastimes, but there are many, many such pastimes. In fact, Hiranyakashipu is one such recipient of the blessings of his son Prahlad. Even though Narsinga was so angry with Hiranyakashipu, he was fully forgiven and blessed just because of Prahlad's request and his favorable disposition towards it. And there are many, many other such stories. So Kashyap Muni also observed, he told her this, but he also observed that Diti was, even though she made a mistake, see, mistake is, as there is a saying, right, to err is human. The power of material energy is so strong that sometimes at some period of time, lust, greed, anger becomes so, envy becomes so overwhelming that we lose all discrimination and make a mistake. And that happens sometimes even in the lives of great souls because the power of material energy is so strong. It is not an ordinary person. She's a very great soul. In fact, eventually, she, will eventually achieve perfection. She's a very great soul. So, she was overwhelmed, but she realized her mistake and she repented. And Kashyap Muni observed and he told her, I can see that you are sorry for what you did. You are feeling repentant and you have properly contemplated and understood the situation and understood the mistake you have made. And because you have strong faith in the Supreme Lord, and you have such great respect for Lord Shiva as well as your husband, and you're taking a humble position now, asking for forgiveness and guidance, you are going to receive one special blessing. Even though your children, your immediate children, are going to be big demons, there's a very special blessing awaiting you, which is that your grandson is going to be a very great devotee of the Lord. And not just an ordinary great devotee, but such a great devotee, such a great devotee. Your grandson will become that his fame will be spread over the world practically as much as the fame of the Lord himself. And that grandson of yours, he is going to be of such an impeccable character, and he will set such a pristine example of pure devotion that the whole world will follow him and his footsteps. His example will be quoted as the ideal example of devotion. He will be extremely peaceful, free from all envy, free from all animosity. Everybody will be happy with him. He will never display any anger or envy or frustration. He'll always be peaceful and fixed in the Lord. He will always be satisfied in worshipping and remembering the Lord, never approaching the Lord for any material things. He will want nothing but the Lord. He will be practically the greatest of the great souls. And he will always be absorbed in ecstasy. And eventually, because of his great devotion, he will attain the supreme destination in the spiritual world. He will go back home, back to Godhead after leaving this world. So in this case, actually, Kashyap Muni is referring to the future appearance of Prahlad Maharaj, who was the son of Hiranyakashipu. So for those of you who are not aware, the immediate sons who are going to be born because of this union between Kashyap and Diti are Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu, twins. And the son of Hiranyakashipu was Prahlad. So Kashyap Muni is already predicting all these things are going to be happen. And your son, your grandson Prahlad, so great that not only he'll be able to see the Supreme Lord inside his heart, like the great yogis, but he will actually get the opportunity to see the Lord face to face. The Lord is going to appear in front of him. Lord is accompanied by the goddess of fortune. Yeah, correct. This beautiful form of Narasimha, that eventually Lakshmi Devi comes and sits on the lap of Lord Narasimha. That beautiful vision of Lakshmi Narasimha. He will be able to see. The Lord will come in a very beautiful form. The Lord who is decorated with beautiful ornaments and earrings. The Lord who assumes the form that the devotee desires to see him in. That Lord will give him darshan. So this great devotee, this grandson of yours, will be able to see the Lord within and without. So when Diti heard all this narration, she became very happy. She said, "This is not so bad after all. Even though I thought that, a big mistake has happened. And yes, my two immediate sons are going to become demons and they are going to create chaos and disturbance. But at least, one, they are going to be killed by the Supreme Lord himself. This will be very auspicious for them. And also, my grandson will be such a great devotee whose fame will spread all over the world. This is wonderful." So, Diti became peaceful and happy. But ultimately, the whole episode is going to end in auspiciousness for both her children as well as her grandchildren. So that brings us to the end of the chapter. And then from here on, then the birth of Hiranyaksha, then subsequent stories will continue from the next chapter. Yeah. So, any questions, comments?
If no questions, Prabhu, can I ask, Diti is among the sisters, what number? Which is she the eldest, the youngest, or?
I'm not sure on top of my head, but yeah, she's amongst the elder ones. Somebody can check and let know. I need to check. I don't remember on top of my head. So obviously there is Diti, Aditi, Kadru, and a few others. There are quite a few sisters. I don't remember. I can just check, but I don't recollect. Danu, Kadru, Kalika, Krodha, Muni, Vinata, Vishwa. These are all the sisters, but I'm not sure whether she was the eldest or not. Any other questions?
No, Prabhu, that's all from me.
Thank you. Okay, so if no other questions, then we will end here. Thank you very much. Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam ki
Right.
jai. Shri Prabhupada ki jai.